nowadays, what does your typical production process look like from start to finish?
Bro, when I want to make something really out of the box, I just started by making some drums, make some drum patterns because I really
Mhm.
love to mess with the drums and making sweet spots in the on the right, on the left. Because when you start from the chords, I think you get, stuck in a drum pattern of trap like because our brain is kind of lazy, so we really love to recognize patterns and rip and you know so when I wanted to make something really out of the box, I just started from the drums. After this I start to make my chords because when it comes about chord progressions, I really like to use sevenths, minor chords, diminished chords, even though in trap we don't use a lot of it because
Mhm.
it sounds kind of strange from the original trap, but diminished chords has its own beautiful
I
because
love diminished chords. I love them.
they get like really uncomfortable and you get a resolution after, so it's kind
Yeah.
of having a pressure and out of nowhere getting relaxed. So I really love to mess with chords, I really love to mess with drums to make something really. But then when it comes about artists in general, when they come to me and rap it, I just make the bass.
Yeah.
We have an expression in Brazil to call the basic like arroz com feijão, rice and beans. Like just basic the works, just basic works.
Yeah. So you start with some drums, and I've heard a lot of people that do love to start with drums as producers just because it can make for a more open-ended song. Like you're not bogged down from when you start with the chords and you're in that key, you're in that chord progression. So
Yeah.
that's interesting you talk about that. How did you learn music production? Like how did you learn music theory, I guess you could say?
Bro, it's a funny story because when I was like 9 years old, when I was a kid, I used to go to school music, and I was terribly far from way to the worst student there because I couldn't understand music theory. I was like, what the hell is this? What the hell is this? What the hell is this?
It's hard.
S- Yeah, it's hard, but when I grew up, I realized music theory, it's just, math. You just have to take the first, the third, and the fifth. So you're gonna make a major chord. And when I realized that, I was like, my mind exploded because it's just math, bro. You don't have to truly understand what's going on. It's really simple because it just involves math. You're gonna take the first, the third, the fifth, and you're gonna make a chord. So when I was a kid, I couldn't really understand this because I just wanted to play with my friends. I just wanted to fuck around with my colleagues from the school, and I just had to grow up to really understand music. And I remember the final of my music school. I was like looking at the test, and it was, how the fuck am I supposed to answer these questions? Because I have no idea what I was talking about. And I received my test like in the end of the class, and I took an F, like a zero, totally zero. And I and I got to my mom crying like a baby. Mom, I am a failure, mom. Couldn't make it. And my mom was like, "What the hell has happened to you, son?" I showed her my test, and she was like, "Oh, my little babe, come here. Let me hug you. It's gonna be better. It's gonna be better." So I had to do for a lot to learn, music theory and just to understand how we work. I had to spend a lot of time of my life to truly understand it based on math.
So, if you could give one tip to someone that is trying to learn music theory, what do you think that would be?
Just don't complicate things because when we start to learn, anything in the world, we get like, oh, I understand this concept right here. And once we understand something, we intend to go faster. So when you take two, three steps away, like really fast, a lot of things are to messing up on your head. So if I could say anything, one thing it would be like don't complicated things. Just start it simple. You start to learn real low. And once you understand a lot of things, you can jump really, really deep into those things because on the surface, music theory can be really simple, but when it comes about, the greatest artists of all time, like jazz, blues, it's kind of messed up, bro. Even me doesn't have, those those knowledge about
Yeah, yeah.
really complicated music theory.
Mhm. Well, the number one rule of jazz is that there is no rules. So,
Yeah.
how do you learn that,
Yeah, it's kind of complicated because we are taught to like you have to sound good. You have to sound good. And jazz doesn't follow this anyway. So jazz it's kinda hard
But it
to
still
understand.
sounds just mwah, just oh,
Yeah.
jazz just sounds good.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of the music theory aspect of it. How did you go about learning the production aspect of it? Because I think if you have music theory knowledge, it doesn't necessarily mean you're just immediately a good producer. So how did you mix
Yeah.
those together?
When it comes to this topic, we have to come back to the past because has their own, sounds, has their own, you know, chords, has their own instruments in general. So trap used to tend a lot of synths, used to have a lot of pianos, used to have a lot of synthetic things. So when I started it, I used to put a lot of instruments on my instrumentals and it was like totally messed up. And
Mhm,
it couldn't feel like real trap, it couldn't feel
mhm.
like real hip hop. It couldn't feel like boom bap. So I had to suffer a lot too because when you start to dive into music production, you have to understand what's going on in the instrument. Like trap has those specific instrumentals. Pop, really rock has the specific instruments. So when
Yeah,
when first start to produce, actually produce, you have to understand which instruments you should use and which you should not. Because I don't wanna say shit here, but it truly gets kind of when you put a different instrument in a trap, like
sure.
uh I don't know, like a banjo in the
Yeah.
trap. I can hear a banjo in the
Uh-uh.
trap.
Uh-uh.
It's kind of weird. But
Yeah.
it's like you said, we are totally free to do whatever we want in music.
I know it's awful that that clip is over, but don't you worry because you can watch a full podcast right over here. Just click that little button right there. Just click it. Just do it. You know you want to. Just